The whole purpose of this mentoring and coaching program on health and safety management systems is to get you to have a proper health and safety management system in place in your organization, by which you can not only manage your risk so that you have a business benefit, but also that you are legally compliant and that you are commercially more competitive by showing the clients that you have a good health and safety management system in place. That will then make your life easier if you have to demonstrate your compliance through the submission of a SHE file. I said before that a health and safety management system is the complete health and safety management inside your company, and the SHE file is basically a sample of some of the documentation as may be applicable per a project. So let's see what it looks like in practice. How do we get the theory into practice? So far, we've been speaking about theory, and you've had some lessons on risk assessment and task safety analysis. How do we put this into practice? A basic health and safety management system, I said, consists of the plan process, where you have the context, the what, where, when, how, when. You state your policy, your value statements, your beliefs and principles. You communicate and demonstrate that. Then you plan your job, and once you've got the job process down, what you're going to do, you need to look at your legal commitments, your legal compliance requirements for that program. You also need to do a risk assessment for that task. So you have to identify all the hazards. You have to look at the legal requirements that you need to apply to control those hazards, and you need to have a good risk control plan in place. So for every hazard, you need to identify how it will hurt somebody or something, what you need to do to control that hazard so that it doesn't do so. Then we put organizational structures in place, we train people, we put documentation in place in terms of forms, procedures, manuals, that kind of stuff. We keep records of these things, we have our tools and equipment, and other resources that we have available, and we apply them to execute the job. Our supervision makes sure that all these plans that we've made is actually being executed and people are following the rules and procedures. If something goes wrong, I need an emergency plan. I need to check and evaluate, is my plan working? Is my execution working well? And then if I see something can improve, or even if something is working well, I need to say, well, based on inspections, audits, incidents, non-conformance reporting, and the analysis of these results, I need to say, this is what I need to improve or continue doing somewhere in the future. I then put this into my corrective and preventative actions register, where I keep track of all the things that I need to do, that I have completed them, and where I can evaluate that they are effective. And I go back to my policy statement, my plan, or the implementation to see where these things can improve, and I fix them. From time to time, I review my performance, and where I'm doing well, I continue doing so. And when I'm not doing well, I need to go back and revise the plan to fix that so that I can actually do well. Now let's put this in real life. Let's say I am doing a certain task, and during that task, or part of my work, part of my job, part of my business, is to work with electrical hand tools. Here I've got an example: a hand drill, angle grinder, extension cable, and extension light. Those are things that are typically used in construction and all kinds of other work. What we need to do, and you have done so in your one exercise, you need to do a risk assessment. So you list every one of these items as a hazard, and we analyze them for their character. We analyze them for the kind of incidents that can result from them. We do the consequence analysis, and we give them a risk rating score. And then based on the hazards, we need to put controls in place to make sure that people don't get hurt. I also need to make sure that I'm legally compliant. Therefore, I go and look at the law, and I find that in the construction regulations, there's a clause that says all electrical machinery must be inspected and there must be a checklist. So I can group all of these items together as electrical equipment, electrical machinery, but everyone still has its own risks, and everyone will need a slightly different approach for every one of them. So I come up, and the law says, and it's good practice, that I need to inspect these things. I need to make sure that the electrical cables are in good order, that they are properly earthed, that there will be no electrocution, that they are in good physical condition, that people are using the right discs, that the speed is indicated on the angle grinder, and whatever I need to do to address the risks associated with this incident. I will have individual checklists for all of this equipment, but I will then have a register because I might have multiple checklists, and it's a good thing to have a register of all your checklists so that we make sure that they are all updated and they are all being used on a regular basis. I also need to issue PPE. I need to issue the right kind of PPE. Therefore, I also need a checklist of all the PPE that I require, the condition of the PPE, and when and how I issued this PPE to the individuals that were going to use them. I might also need to do training in the use of both the equipment as well as the use of the PPE. So I need a training needs matrix where I need to indicate what training everybody needs to comply with, what they need to be qualified in or certified in, and I need a schedule on when they will be trained, when the training will expire, and how often I need to retrain people on PPE use or the use of the equipment and the safety procedures. I then need to train them, so they need to physically go through training, and when they are done, I need to keep records of their certificates, of the training completed, the expiry dates, and everything that goes along with that. I also need supervision. So I need to organize my company or my organization in such a way that everybody knows exactly what he does, what he's responsible for. There might be legal requirements, legal appointments, as specified by some legislation. I need to organize my people. Now, once I've got my tools, equipment, training, and my competency together, I've got supervision, then what we can do is we can use all of this information, and the supervision can then arrange for toolbox talks. Because the people have been trained and they are competent, we've got supervision, we've done the safety talks and other items that we needed to do, the equipment is in good order, I can then execute the task. While people are executing the task, we supervise them, we do inspections, we do audits, we do planned task observations, and we've got audit schedules and inspections and these things to make sure that we cover all of the areas that are important at the right times. Now, based on what we see, we may list non-conformances, we may list positive observations, there may be incidents, we need to record this, and we need to report this, and that's a different process on its own. Eventually, from our incident investigations and from analyzing all our checklists and our audits and incident reports, we will come up with a list of things that we call corrective actions, things that will correct the mistakes of the past and things that we are doing to prevent a repetition of the mistakes of the past or even the lessons that we've learned. That's what we call a corrective and preventative action register. So all of your inspections, all of your deviations goes into that register, and it gives you one easy management tool that you can apply and you can sign off and go and verify that these things have been implemented and that the solution is effective the solutions are effective, and there won't be a repeat of the same incidents. Now, based on our inspections, our audits, our planned task observations and schedules, and our corrective action register, we can then assess our performance on a regular basis. That can be 3 monthly, 6 monthly, once a year. And then based on our findings, what we do is we go back and we refine our health and safety management plan. And in that process, we keep on improving our health and safety system so that our risks are reduced, just like we've discussed in one of the previous slides, which is the effect of an effective health and safety management system. Here we start with the hazards, we do the overall risk assessments, we apply the controls, the hierarchy of controls, we reduce the high risks first, we then apply the hierarchy of controls again to the medium risks, we then do that risk reduction, and eventually we get to the point where all our risks are at the point where they are as low as reasonably possible for our organization and our circumstances. So that's the whole purpose of this program, is to help you to understand all these loose documents that are sometimes that you see, all these different checklists, all the meeting requirements. How do they all link together? Your job is now to go and link. Start with your risk assessment and every hazard, the controls, and then link all of these documents and forms and registers that you might have in your SHE file. If you don't have a proper health and safety management system, you need to link these things together so that it starts forming a cycle, so that you can start seeing, but this thing is connected to that thing, is connected to that thing, and that it works like a machine to get you from point A to point B, which is a better position than you are currently.